Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of the Financial Advisors Want to Know podcast. I'm Catherine Tindall, a CPA here with Dominion. We're a specialty tax and accounting firm solely working for wealth management practices. And on today's episode, I'm very excited to have with me Angela York and Elyse Stoner. They're the team behind Event Advisors. They help financial professionals turn client events into strategic business tools. I always like that strategic emphasis. Angela brings a hands-on experience from inside advisory firms, while Elyse offers big picture strategies shaped by a career in sports and entertainment. Together, they focus on return on the moment, which we will be talking about, crafting purposeful events that build trust, deepen relationships, and drive results. So thank you so much, ladies, for joining me today. Glad to have you here.
Thanks for having us.
I know we were talking a bit in the pre-show about some of my horror stories seeing clients with events and marketing expenditures. So I think today is going to be a very poignant episode for me from some experiences I've had with clients even this year. So I wanted to start off with, I think something that you both mentioned at the beginning is a lot of advisors have misconceptions around what a successful event is, what the mindset should be around doing events. And I think, maybe to take a step back before we get into, details of, what works and what doesn't. When advisors are thinking about what makes an event successful, or just like, how do you be strategic about this? What's a good place for them to kind of start in terms of a mindset around what they should be thinking about when they consider, events as a tool in the toolkit for the practice?
I think it's thinking about it as a marketing opportunity, a marketing tool. For some reason, a lot of people just see events in its own little box. Mm-hmm. Well, I do digital marketing, or I have a TV show, but they don't think about events in that same space. So thinking about it as a marketing tool, and when you are jumping into that, well, why? What's the purpose of that? And we can get into the how to do that. But I think that's a misconception. It's some people are just I just do them because somebody told me I have to, instead of it's a good marketing tool.
Yeah, or I've seen where it's a nice to have rather than we're strategically making the decision to do this because there's been a lot of infrastructure thought behind, basically we're either going to use this for client acquisition or client retention and ascension. And if we're going to use it for that secondary category, it's also a part of client acquisition too, right? It's like referral, base and just et cetera. So I think when they're starting to think about it strategically, what are some of the components that they should be thinking about? Or, if for someone, say, who's never thrown an event, where would you recommend, they start when they start thinking about this?
Well, I think the first place to start for someone who hasn't done events is to really understand what an event can be. I think there's a misunderstanding out there that an event has to be an expensive, large person dinner at a fancy venue, and it's not the case. The event needs to be tailored to who your ideal attendee is and what their wants and preferences are. So a 10-person dinner can be just as wildly successful, if not more successful, than a 50 or 100-person educational event about a topic that might not interest that ideal attendee. So that's the first place we like to really guide our clients in understanding what an event can be. It can also be philanthropic. It can also be a sponsorship. There's lots of different ways it can look. As far as where to start, we like to look at the business goals. What are your business goals? And you can have more than one. Is it deepening relationships with your female clients or the wives that maybe aren't coming to the meeting? Is it deepening a relationship with your COIs? Is it deepening the relationships with the next gen, or a combination? And then taking those goals and building an event that ties into those goals. So your event goals will tie into your business goals. Then when you have your event goals that say you want to create an event that starts to deepen those relationships with the female clients, you ask your top female clients that you want to replicate, we're looking to host several events. These are some ideas on education and social. What interests you? We would love your feedback, and hear what they have to say, and create events based on their interests. And it's not only their interests, but do you have people that are working? Is it the time of day? If you hold it during the day and you have mostly people who work, you're going to have low attendance. Just as if you hold an event that has a topic that's not of interesting to them, you'll have low attendance. So looking at all those pieces and asking your clients, which is a key concept that many don't understand. It's not about you, the advisor, it's about the ideal attendee. So once you've developed the business goals that lead into the event goals, then you can plan your logistics.
Yeah, and I think you bring up a really good point, which is if you haven't done work around like who your ideal client avatar is, or just like who's the ideal profile that you want to work with, and like what do they have in common. And you might have different segments within a book. Like that's pretty common. Like when I talk to advisors, that they'll have some pretty distinct segments from each other that are different from each other. But I think that that's really great feedback of it's not about you. It's about them. It's about, okay, what do they need? What are the common like complaints or questions or things that I'm getting in meetings, and just, okay, so if that's the case, what kind of event is actually going to, speak to that group. In terms of return on the moment, can one of you speak to kind of what you mean by that? And, I think we had a little bit in the pre-show where I was talking about how, I see where advisors will can sometimes treat marketing expense like a trip to the casino. Like, let's just throw dollars at this and see what happens. And so I always like to push for, when we're going for things that are going to be an expense on your P&L, I really want to treat them as an investment. I want to treat them as something we expect a return on. Ideally, in either decreased expense or increased revenue, like one of those two. But Angela, you brought up a really interesting concept of the return on the moment. And I'm interested to have that kind of woven into, my numbers and dollars and cents approach to doing, marketing expenditure.
Go ahead, Elyse.
So here's the piece. And I love when you say this is when you have a marketing expenditure, that you're looking for some type of return. Like we're there with you 100%. Where we separate is what we're looking for a return on. Events, not unlike a lot of other marketing tactics, are super hard to look at a hardcore ROI, right? Because chicken's chicken, or a venue rental is a venue rental. Like there are definitely fixed costs in all of that. So in creating relationships and deepening relationships, to say I spent X and therefore I got Y out of that particular thing, like it's never going to happen. So what we talk about is your event is a moment. So like Angela was talking about, when you set goals for that moment, that's how you're measuring your return. You're measuring the return on that moment. I am looking to deepen relationships with the adult children of my business owner clients. Okay, great. That's what we're going to measure. And is it going to be, 85% of them actually brought their adult children, or we create certain logistical experiences at the event that have that mindset of like, this is doing that. So like we're doing family photos at the event because we want it to be about family. It's setting goals and intentions on that moment, not putting the heavy burden on, again, this better get me more clients, or this better like make those adult children stay. Because everything that we do in that marketing space is sort of at the mercy of somebody else.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
So it's, am I doing the things to kind of control the client journey? And that's when it ties back to the ROM, the return on the moment.
Yeah, and I like that as a point because, I think for the analytical people in the audience, myself included, I would love that I could just life was simple enough that it could live in Excel, right? And it just doesn't. And I think especially with marketing programs and things like that, it is really difficult to evaluate performance. It's how do you know what was the one, can you even know, what was the thing that had the client who was thinking about changing, not changing, or made
Right.
them have the conversation that led to a new client joining, or, how do you quantify that? And so I think a lot of times when I talk to firm owners about like their marketing programs and just what's working and what's not working, a lot of it comes down to, when you're going into doing these things, what are the goals that you're trying to achieve out of it? And, giving yourself some grace. And then if you're hitting the targets that you want to hit, when we look at, okay, is it increase, are we trying to increase the, like the average fees for per household? Like, is that the goal that we're trying to drive towards? Are we just trying to increase overall revenue and we don't care about composition as much, or, decrease client turnover, or just whatever it is, right? And setting some of those goals and really just trying to look at things at a more global level than, did this one client care event, what did I get for an ROI on that? It's more just, okay, and then matrix of the programs that I'm doing and the goals that I'm trying to hit at global levels. Am I hitting those? Am I not hitting those? And then I think when we talk about doing things strategically, just being mindful of, some more of the businessy components of these kinds of things. Like, are the people who showed up to the event qualified? Like, are they the people that you wanted to show up? Were there people that didn't show up that should have? So was there a messaging problem? Was there what was the offer of the event? Like, did it meet what they wanted so that they did show up? Did you get the return, in terms of, did they go through the process? Did they enjoy it? Like, afterwards, when you follow up, like, what did they say about it? Like, how did they feel about it? Do you want to do it again? And then just, what's the follow-up items that you get off of it in terms of, what happened afterwards, and how are you collecting information, how are you following up on it, and how are you making the decision for next time? That's more like at the level of what I see for the strategic decisions behind it. But I guess in terms of when someone's had an event and they're evaluating, okay, was this a win or a lose, and where could we have made this better? Where was it great? What's some of the framework or thought that you both have in terms of helping advisors know, like, oh yeah, no, that was good, we did a great job, let's do it again, or, how do we do it better next time, kind of things, when they're looking at the events that they've done? Just a slight interruption in this conversation. I wanted to bring to your attention two things that are important for you to know. So, we're always at the mercy of social media algorithms. So, if you can subscribe to the show, that would mean a lot to me. Even more to me if you can leave a rating and let me know what you think about it. But we have a new newsletter that's coming out. It's going to be very active in 2025. That is specifically around tax issues that I'm seeing advisors face in their own practices, changes in legislations, and the pieces that I think are critically important for you to stay ahead of as an advisor with the new administration. So nearby, wherever you're interacting with this, will be the link of how to sign up for our newsletter. Also nearby will be the link to my LinkedIn, which is the best way to get in touch with me, learn more about what we're doing for advisors in the tax strategy and compliance work that we do, and also to get access to the various tools and interviews and things that I do, specifically designed to help you improve your practice, improve your own tax situation, etc. So let's get back to the episode, and thanks for tuning in.
I think it's like we talked about, right? Like, where is this tying into your business goals, and is it moving your business in the direction you want it to go?
Mm-hmm.
And I also think part of that becomes, you touched on it, but it's the follow-up piece
Mm-hmm.
of it. We work with our clients to make sure even the follow-up is strategic. And what does that mean? That means making sure that you're asking questions that are getting you answers that are valuable to you.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
And again, what's the goal? I want to deepen, let's say in this case, I want to deepen a relationship with these adult children. Okay, well, asking them a question of, like, on a scale of 1 to 5, how did you like the venue? That doesn't really help you with your goal.
Yeah.
But if you're saying the family photo that you took at our event, you're going to use it. Here's 3 choices of ways that you could use it, right? And they're going to tell you how they're going to use it. Then you look at that data and go, okay, sitting on the refrigerator, maybe they're sharing it on social media. Okay, there's probably some value in that. It winds up in my junk drawer. Probably not so much.
Yeah.
So it's being strategic in that part of it too, so that it all builds towards where you're looking to go.
Yep. Yeah. No, and that makes sense. And that's a lot more qualitative than quantitative, like seeing, okay, here's where the information's flowing and here's where the data's flowing, and like, oh, okay, like this is going to get me more exposure, or this is going to get me a conversation with a good referral, or this is going to get me the client trusting us more to help them make better, deepen the relationships, bigger commitments, bigger decisions together, like having a sense of where the data is flowing. I think on the flip side, because people always love to hear about this, I know I do. In terms of things that you've come across over the course of careers doing this, what are some big mistakes or red flags or like common stumbling blocks that people hit? Other than the obvious, like more obvious things, like what are some examples of things where these events can go wrong? And any specific examples or war stories? I know those always stick out in people's minds of some of these experiences. If you have any stories you want to share.
Go ahead, Angela. You have the ones that are going to work with the audience. Me telling you about like a Metallica concert and what went wrong probably won't help so much here. Go ahead.
I'm thinking in my head so many things. I'm not sure where
do you start? Yeah.
So I think I'll start large and go small. Conceptual, and we've talked about this. So doing an event that you want to do versus and wondering why nobody showed or you have low attendance. It could be, I need to do an event on Social Security. Well, your ideal clients are in their 40s. They're not going to make time in their schedule to come.
Yeah.
Or doing a cigar and Scotch pairing, and you don't have cigar and Scotch drinkers. It's those nuances at the higher level, doing an event that resonates with those that you want to attend. Then I think getting smaller, it's those details. It's those not doing the touch points. The RCP, you don't talk to them for a while, you don't confirm, and nobody shows up. So it's and they don't understand why. So it's being consistent with those touch points from invitation to RSVP to the day of, getting them excited. So that is a big mistake. Follow up, we talked about that. Most and many advisors feel the job is done, or they just don't have the time or the bandwidth, or the next day it's like, what should I do? Should I write a note? Should I send an email? Well, that has to go to compliance. And then 2 weeks later, if that, it gets mobilized into an action. And that is a huge mistake. And we are big proponents of planning your follow-up when you're planning your event, weeks out. So what are the topics of the presentations, and then taking a few takeaways from those topics and putting them into a funnel that is going to drop the day after the event. Guides, books, repurposing photos, and you can have more than one touch points, because it does take, sometimes it takes a few days or a week to get the photos back. So you can have, touch point, follow up 1, follow up 2, and then you collect the data and the feedback at the event and through the follow-up, and you put that in your CRM, and that is discussed in a review meeting. Let's say you ask them which was their favorite wine, not did you like the wine, which is your favorite, or did you like the rosé or the Chardonnay better? And they tell you, you put that in the CRM, and that shows up at an anniversary or a special occasion, and like, how did you remember? We're listening.
Yeah.
So again, going from kind of larger mistakes down to smaller mistakes. being prepared with backup. We like to call it our emergency kit. We have an emergency kit we use when we plan events. We provide lists to our clients.
Mm-hmm.
We've had projectors blow out, remotes, batteries die, reading glasses forgotten.
Mm-hmm.
Somebody shows up that didn't RSVP, so you need blank name tags and a Sharpie. So all those little things that can help make the actual event run smoother.
Yeah, that's great. And I think one question that comes to mind, because I always see a very stark distinction with this. I'm more well, you get this experience, a digital person. And so when advisors are thinking about, okay, some of the differences that come along between doing in-person events versus doing digital events, or even just, you know, what you would consider a digital event. Like, does it have to be a live webinar? Can it be on demand, like stuff? Is it just sending out resources, in a timely group, or having a little, group call or something like that? How should advisors be thinking about like the differences between digital style events versus in-person style events? Do you have, preferences from what you've seen in the field of like what works better, or just like how they should be thinking about like those, if you pretend, treat them as separate categories from each other?
We do treat them as separate categories, except in the origin point of view. And
Mm-hmm.
what I mean by that is ask your clients.
Mm-hmm.
So when people are saying, I'm doing 5 webinars a year, well, that's great. Is that feedback that you've received from people? Well,
Mm-hmm.
no, because I saw somebody else doing it. That's not a good, it's, as a parent, right? Like if Johnny
Mm-hmm.
jumped off the bridge, are you jumping off the bridge too? Right? Like
Yeah.
that still holds in this. We have conversations with some of our clients who say, but my top clients aren't in my market. So it's really hard for me to include them in an in-person event.
Mm-hmm.
And we like to go through an exercise of like hot spotting those clients, like really taking out a map and going, where are they? And
Mm-hmm.
oftentimes people are really surprised that they may have pockets in
Mm-hmm.
those away destinations.
Mm-hmm.
Go do an event there. Like you should probably be going and meeting with them anyway. And yes, we do live in a digital world and people are like, oh, I can just hop on my computer. But
Mm-hmm.
again, think about it. Catherine, if you had a service provider who was from away and they're like, hey, I'm coming to your town and I'd love to meet with you in person.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I don't know about you, but it's like kind of warm and fuzzy and deepens your relationship. So instead of automatically defaulting to a virtual opportunity, look to see if there's a way to create an in-person opportunity that not only becomes that touch point, but one of the other things, and Angela touched on this idea of what we call positive emotional memory when you have people together. We've seen it. It's like totally cool that I'm an advisor from away. I'm coming into a location. I'm having dinner for 10 people. And those 10 people now have something in common, and that's you.
Yeah.
And how cool is that? In not only deepening the relationship between you and the client, but amongst the clients, and you're building a community.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, that's certainly true. And it's funny because I'm in a number of, like on just the tax and accounting side, in a number of communities. And it's really interesting that a lot of the rapport building happens digitally, but then, oh, we're going to have a live event in this location and people are, a conference or whatever it is. Or just like geographically, like a meetup or something like that. And it does stand out in the mind so much more. And I think what I've really enjoyed is, having those in-person meetings where it's a lot of like talking shop and talking about life, like especially if you have like those kind of client segments where they have a lot in common because you're targeting similar people or like similar stages of life, or like they're all like they all own plumbing businesses, like whatever it is, right? Being able to, I think the more that they have in common when you do those things, it really stands out. And then I've tend to find like if content is like purely educational, tends to be like a little better just in a digital format, because then people can kind of consume it when they want. And it's hard to do like a cocktail party on Zoom, right? Like if the pandemic is over.
It's doable.
Right. It is doable. But I think the other piece of it, again, is we're not saying not to do virtual. We're saying do your homework. And, going back to the analogy we talked about in the beginning, like hedge your bets by doing your homework. And it really isn't as much of a game of roulette as if you hadn't done your homework.
Yeah, absolutely. Don't think that you can just throw dollars at problems like this. It's got to be strategically deployed. Otherwise, you're just taking a trip to the casino and usually the house wins.
Exactly. And as we often like to say, when we talk about strategy and we talk about these events, people are like, but I just want to throw a party. And as we, and like in that same mindset of like, if you want to just kind of like do a thing, and you were talking about strategy and hey, if you want to be a gambler, like, cool. Like that's all on you. Like we often say, we love a good party. Don't, make sure we're on the invite list. And we're not saying not to do that, but do some homework ahead of that to make sure it's going to help you achieve whatever goals you're setting.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Well, before we go, any final thoughts? And before we go too, I want to talk about some of the resources you have for advisors, but any other, final pointers or things that we didn't hit today that you think should get out there?
Gosh, there's so many.
Where do you start?
We know you are busy.
Yeah.
And you are business owners. And we're here to help you do your day job. And we've sat in those seats, Angela in particular, of that person in your office who is doing client experience and they're dealing with compliance, and they're, if you are still in an office setting, dealing with the building management, and then they get thrown an event. It's hard. And that's why we're here. We're here to help make it less hard.
Yeah. And I think that brings a much more core subject matter that I talk to a lot of advisors about, is just when you're going through the different elements of your business, you have to be really sensitive to operational drag. And, there's going to be way more things that you want to do than can ever get done. And so it's just a matter of, okay, if we can kind of compartmentalize and isolate certain functions so that they can be handled efficiently by a team that's external, a lot of times the operational drag is going to be significantly less. Like it's particularly true in the work that we do with like finance and accounting, where it's easier to compartmentalize it and to offboard it. And so I think that's a really great point of just, I do see advisors where they try to take this on all themselves. And when I look at return on time and just what their skill set is, et cetera, it's like you and then your core team shouldn't be handling, making sure the caterers are showing up on time, like that kind of stuff. It's just because you can't make unless that's going to become your full-time thing. You're never going to get operational efficiency with that. Versus what the core business model is. So I think that's a very salient point for us to kind of wrap things up. We're going to have in the show notes the website for people to get into your world and, get more resources available, which is event-advisors.net/get started, but that'll be in the show notes for people to access. What are some of the resources that you have available, or, more specific ways that you help advisors for people interested in getting into your world?
We really run the gamut because, again, we've listened to our clients and everybody's in a different place. So we have something as simple as what we call our signature event system, which is a web-based project management tool that is a timeline of tasks that event organizers can use to plan their events. We offer consulting, and that happens in a couple different ways, where we work with that overworked person on your team to talk about strategy, to talk about goals and logistics. There's several different ways that we can do that. And then we do offer the just hand it to us and we take care of everything option. The link that's in the show notes today has 3 very specific offers. We talked a lot about ask your clients. So there's a free download, which is 6 questions to ask your clients to learn about what they want for events. The second is, if you have an event, you've listened to this and you're like, I've got one coming up, but I'm not sure how strategic or what I could do with this. We're offering a 1-hour consultation program. And if you're like, I don't even know where to start, but I want to come up with some ideas and make sure I do it strategically, there's another offer on there for what we call an event intensive.
Nice. That's wonderful. Well, I want to thank you both for coming on the show. This is a great conversation. And for those advisors that are listening to this, I want to thank you for taking the time to listen to this. I would almost call this a digital event.
Absolutely.
Yeah. And so, for those of you listening, we'll post the show in the show notes below, the link to the website. And then also, I'm always interested in getting feedback. So send me a DM about what you thought about the episode, and happy to get you connected with Elyse and Angela, to see if you could be, elevating your experiences here. Cause it's, I've seen a lot of mistakes just looking at practices. And I've also seen some pretty significant successes when this can get pulled off correctly. And, by having a strategic partner here and thinking through it strategically, that makes all the difference. But thank you again, ladies, for coming on the show. Appreciate you taking the time.
Thank you.
Thank you for having us.